Hey everybody, this is Lloyd with Just Got Played, and I'm doing today part 2 of my board game cleanse. I'm making room on shelves for new games that I picked up or new games that I know are coming in, and also just trying to get rid of games that have just been sitting here collecting dust for one reason or another. It could be because I got it and just wasn't able to get it to the table. I got it to the table a few times and it didn't really hit, or I got it to the table, played it quite a bunch, and then just, it on to the new. It just stopped getting played. So let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the games that I'm getting rid of. In the last video, I think I went over about 10 or 11, 12 games. I've got a handful here more, probably about another 10 or 12 games maybe. So let's go ahead and start, and let's just see what's in this mix of games. So first off, we've got What's Up. What's Up is a cute little game with birds sitting on a wire, and it's kind of like a game of memory. The cards are double-sided, and they have different numbers, and you're basically doing set collections with the number of birds, of the different colored birds. It's a quick game. It probably takes like 10 minutes to play. It says 20 minutes. That seems to be pushing it, but maybe. Oh, maybe because you play a few rounds. I think that's what it is. Each hand only lasts a few minutes. It's a cute game. I think this was given away at a convention a few years ago. I actually got quite a few games out of this. Me and my wife played it quite a few times, and we played it with a friend, and she liked it. But it's just, I have other games that do stuff similar to this that I'd rather play. So it's not a terrible game by any means. It's just something that never hits the table anymore. It's quite a few years old now. I don't know exactly when this came out. It's probably at least like 5 or 6 years old now at this point, maybe older. 2016, so yeah, about 6 years old. So that's it. What's Up? Cute little game. I'm gonna pass it on. It's probably a good game to play with, younger kids, and they'll probably get a kick out of it. Next up is Gang Up. So Game Up, a criminally fun card game. So this was an early back for me on Kickstarter, like not an early back, but a back early in my Kickstarter days. And essentially what this is, you are a gang leader and you are trying to recruit different criminals in order to complete jobs and get renowned so that you are, the most feared and well-known gangster in the town. It's kind of like Munchkin in the sense that you're trying to level up your character. You can work together with other players to complete jobs. Some jobs you need to work together and you both get benefits out of it. And then it also kind of has the same deal that happens with Munchkin in the end, in that once someone gets, close to the top, people stop doing jobs with them. They start backstabbing them left and right. And then the game kind of grinds to a halt. Kind of the way Munchkin does. You really have to be clever with your card play in order to make sure that you are completely foolproof whenever you try to complete that last job and get the last amount of renown. I really dig the art on this game, which is what originally drew me to it. The artist on it is Robin Kezier. I probably butchered his name. Kezier. I really, really, really dug the art. That's what drew me to this game. It's got a lot of cool, unique characters in it. The art, it looks very like, like 1930s mobsters. Kind of like Dick Tracy-ish on some of them, very over-the-top caricatures. But it just looked really cool. I got it. I played it a few times. And, if I had this at the same time when I first got Munchkin, because I played a lot of Munchkin, this would have got a lot of rotation. Unfortunately, just the style of game it is, I'm kind of past that, game style. I want to keep it just for the art, because the art in here to me is incredible. It's going on my dump list, to get rid of. Not because it's I want to get rid of it. It's just I don't play it. I might keep it for the art, but it's definitely going off of my play shelf. But yeah, that is Gang Up, a criminally fun card game. Yeah, that's it. That brings me to the next game, because from that same, I believe it was the same company, definitely the same artist. It might be a different company that did this, but this is Dragon Punch. So what Dragon Punch is, it's got the same art from that same artist, Robin Kaiser. This is a 2-player game. It all takes place in your hand. So essentially this is Street Fighter. And you play it in your hand. You don't even have to have a table. It's all done in your hand. It is a cool little game that you play kind of rock, paper, scissors style. You get a handful of cards, plus your character card who has unique abilities. All the cards are, they're doubled. So they spin around, so they have a top and a bottom. And when you first start out, all your cards are facing up, which are all your kind of light attacks. And then as you choose what you want to do each turn, you basically take the card you want, you put it on the top, and then you both reveal. You reveal, and it's got like a speed system and a power system. It's kind of like I said, like rock, paper, scissors. You're trying to guess what your opponent did. You both have the exact same cards except for the hero card. So you all have the same moves except for your hero. So you're trying to anticipate what they're going to do and when. Whenever you take damage, you will flip over cards depending on how much damage you took. So once you flip the card over, it becomes a more powerful card. Eventually, once you start to take too much damage, the cards that you flipped, you can no longer flip anymore. Instead, you turn them around. Once they're turned around, you are basically losing life at that point, and your options dwindle down. The game takes a few minutes to play. It's got the really cool art style from that same artist, which is why I dug it. It actually has some create a character cards in here and create a move cards that they put in that are blank, so you can just write on your own cards and make up your own moves. I carried this around with me carried around with me in a book bag to cons and game nights and stuff. And I'd whip it out here and there to play whenever we had some downtime, because like I said, it says 10 minutes and that's probably about it. It could be faster if you're really bad. I was pretty bad at it. I got whooped up quite a bit. But it is a cute little game. It's got about 6 or 7 characters in it, so they all play a little bit differently with what they can do. And the art style, again, is really cool. I really like the art style. I got the kind of deluxe version. It came in this little tin. As you can see, the tin got kind of beat up, but everything inside is fine. The tin just got beat up from being in a book bag for several years as I took it around from con to con to con, game night to game night to game night. I always had that book bag. So that is Dragon Punch. Like I said, I don't play a lot of head-to-head 2-player games, and this one just doesn't come out very often. So that's it. Dragon Punch. Next up, this is Shards of Infinity, deck building game from Ultra Pro. This is a 2 to 4 player game. It is a head-to-head deck builder where you are fighting against another player. Your character has you have a big character sheet, character board that has spinny life counters and power counters. And you are basically putting together a deck to knock out the other players at the table. They've done a few expansions of this. It is a really good game. It's just, again, it's one of those types of games that I don't play that often, which is a 2-player, head-to-head type game. And the game says it's 30 minutes. It can go longer than that. One of the biggest deals I have with a lot of these like games where you fight each other is the ability to gain back life and get a kind of big combo going that you can't really win the game, but you can just extend the game. And this kind of has that going for it, in that you can put together a deck that has a lot of life gain and very little actual damage output. And then it just becomes kind of a war of attrition. I may hit the person for 10 damage, but they, on their next turn, gain back 8 life. And then on the next turn, I may hit them for, 7 damage, and they gain back, 7 life. That's kind of my biggest gripe. If it didn't have the life game in it, I might keep it. But I had the same problem with, I used to have Mage Wars, which is a really cool game. You know, you have your spell book. It's like Magic, but instead of having a deck, you just have access to all your spells at once. You can cast whatever you want as long as you have the power for them. But that game had a character that was all about life gain, and you could just draw out the game, and it's not very fun when that happens. And that can happen in this game. So I played it. I liked it. I played it a couple times. You can pull off some really cool combos. But it's just, you know, it's been sitting on my shelf. It doesn't get much play. It is a quality deck builder. It's pretty cool. I just don't play it anymore. So I'm sure some people will gladly pick this up because I don't know if this is even in print anymore. I know that, like I said, they've made some expansions for it, but Shards of Infinity. Moving on. Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at this. This is Poop the Game. So this is kind of like Uno, but gross. I think I got this at a con, like somebody was handing it out or something. So this will be like, you know, whoever wants to take it can take it. I think this is when Breaking Games was first taking off, way back, you know, 5, 6 years ago. Yeah, it's basically like Uno. That's basically what it is, but it's Poop the Game. And I believe whenever they were selling this game, it came in like a paper bag, like, you know, you put poop on somebody's doorstep. So not really a whole lot to say about poop. If you like Uno and you know, it's probably a beer and pretzels game. You play it with some friends where you're, you know, under the influence or something maybe, and play, or maybe it says ages 6 and up. So yeah, kids would probably get a kick out of this. There's nothing like, there's no vulgarity in it, you know. It's gross stuff. It has like, you know, pictures of poop on it, like black and white pictures of poop. You know, it's very, very goofy. So yeah, Poop the Game. I forgot I even had this. It was tucked away with a bunch of my small box games that are just kind of in a little box on the shelf. And I was digging through and was like, man, what am I going to do with this? Next up we have Mutant Crops. Mutant Crops is actually from a friend of mine, and he's on, you know, he used to be part of the channel a lot more. He hasn't been on as much, from Atheris Games. Mutant Crops is a worker placement where you are growing zombie type plants. It's a cute game. I played it a few times. I'm not really big on worker placements, so I am going to pass this one on. It does play very quick. The art's very cute on it. It does have a small footprint, so it's not a large game. It comes in this nice little box. It's just, I'm not a big worker placement game. I can probably count on one hand, maybe 3 fingers, how many worker placement games I play and like. And you know, this is a strict worker placement game. You're putting a worker out, getting something, and going over here and doing stuff. And you know, that's not really my style. I don't really like that type of game. So I'm going to go ahead and pass on Mutant Crops. Hopefully it goes to a happier home, and someone else will get a real kick out of it. It is a fun game. Very tight little game. Just not in my wheelhouse of types of games that I play. Next up is Loot. Loot from Game Right. Another game I forgot I even had. I played the heck out of this game. When my kids were younger, all 4 of us, my wife, my kids, we would get together, we would play this game. You are basically trying to collect the most ships, right? So merchant ships and pirate ships come out, and you're attacking them, and you're trying to win them. And it's just got really clever card play. As you can see, it's got all these little words meant to select, and smart play, smart toy from Dr. Toy. It's one of Game Right's earlier games, I think. It is a great game for, like I said, for kids. You know, and that's mainly the reason I'm getting rid of it. I don't have kids anymore. My kids are grown. My kids are legal drinking age. So they're not playing Loot anymore. And again, this is one I kind of forgot I had. It was tucked away next to Poop in the box of small games. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of Loot. And maybe someone will take it home with small children that want to play a fun game. Next up, this is the demo copy or prototype copy for Superhero Solitaire. I forgot who was putting this out. Their logo is not even on here anymore. Yeah, I don't remember who put this out. This they were giving away at a con. You sat down, you played a game of Superhero Solitaire in the demo booth, and I forgot exactly the reason why you got a demo deck, but this is it's got one hero in it, I think, and one bad guy, and it is Superhero Solitaire. You are playing Solitaire, trying to get through the deck, and it's a really cool concept. It came out on Kickstarter, like I said, maybe 5 years ago. Don't know exactly. Oh, it's 8th Summit. 8th Summit Games. It's right there. It came out maybe 5 years ago. And it's a solo game. It was fun. I played the heck out of this little demo copy. But I don't play it anymore. It got kind of samey after, a half dozen plays or something, because I'm playing the same hero and I'm playing the same bad guy, and I know what cards to expect and what I need to do to win. And, it's kind of like Solitaire. You can play it a bunch of times and get a different outcome every time based on the deck. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pass this one on. Maybe somebody will get it and they'll play this and they'll be like, man, I wish there was more, because there is more. They put out like a full game of this, and it had I think 6 heroes and 6 bad guys or something. It was a really big deal, a really big, game on Kickstarter. This was just one of the decks that was included in that. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pass this on. And Superhero Solitaire, leaving the collection. Next up, Zombie Fluxx. So if you've watched our ABC videos, you know that this was my Z game. And the reason why this was my Z game, it was because it was the only game that I had played that I liked, that I can remember, that started with a Z. I honestly forgot I had this because we haven't played a whole lot of Fluxx. Fluxx was one of the early games that we played. I got Zombie Fluxx to add a little bit more variety to the game. But in Fluxx, you basically start out with one rule, which is draw one, play one. And then throughout the game, you have more rules cards, you have goal cards, which are how you win the game, and you have keeper cards. And the keeper cards are cards that you play that go towards the goal. So the goal might be milk and cookies. So you are trying to find milk and cookie cards to play in front of you. And once you play those, if you meet the condition of the goal, you win. Zombie Fluxx mixes in a lot of zombie humor and zombie genre references. And it mixes in a new card type, the Creeper, which if you draw it, you have to play it. And you can't have creepers, which are zombies, in front of you, except for very specific goals. And the game kind of gets crazy and out of order and into chaos with all the rules cards that come out, because it'll be draw one, play one, and the next card will be play two. So now you ignore the play one, you do the play two. The next card will be, play 6. And then you do that. And then it'll be discard 4, play 2, draw. And you have this mile-long list of rules that you have to do every turn. And it's a fun, cute, easy game. But again, it's one of those ones that it was a very early game in my board gaming history. It was kind of an entry-level game. We got it to, play. My kids were younger. So again, this was something that we played quite a bit of. And I'm happy to pass it on for someone else to get a good kick out of it. Whether they play it or they just like to collect everything zombie, because Fluxx does have a ton of expansions, and you can mix them all together and play with one big massive Fluxx deck. So I'm sure someone will get someone will be wanting this and never been able to find it or whatever. So, Zombie Fluxx, moving on. Next up, Sushi Dice. If you can hear that, there is a order up bell inside this game. So in Sushi Dice, what you're doing is 3 different cards will come out that have different sushi on them. They're different colors, essentially. You are rolling dice as fast as you can to try and make one of the orders on the card. Whenever you make an order, you can hit the bell and grab the order that's out, and then another one comes out. You're racing against the other player who's playing at the exact same time, so it's a speed rolling game. It's actually really fun. Again, this is one of those ones I kind of got to play with younger nieces and nephews who have kind of aged out of it now. So it never gets played anymore. That's really the only reason it's going out of my collection. All of the nieces and nephews are growing up, and they've aged out of this type of game where it's basically just speed rolling as fast as possible, kind of like Yahtzee rules, but very fast. Sushi Dice. Plus, with small children, that bell, because it is just a normal ring bell for service type bell, that can start to drive you nuts after a while. So I'm kind of glad that they aged out of it, and I'm going to pass this one on. And, maybe somebody else will get a good kick out of this. 2 to 6 players, 15 minutes sounds about right. It's a fun game, very competitive head to head. Sushi Dice from Dude Games. Moving on. Next up, another small box game that I have. This is Truck Off, the Food Truck Frenzy. Make sure how carefully you say that and you pronounce the TR very hard. Truck Off, because it sounds very similar to something else. So what this game is you are competing for food trucks, essentially. You have your own little food truck. Cards are going to come out. They're going to require a certain amount of points to get. And you are going to move your truck there, and then you roll a die. And the game comes with, I think, let's see, how many dice does it come with? 6 dice. It comes from a D4 up to a D20. So the cards tell you kind of what dice you need to roll, and you're trying to hit specific numbers in order to win the card. It says 2 to 6 players. 2 players is very bland, which is why I'm getting rid of it. It's too light for my normal game group. And to play with my wife, 2 players, it's not very fun. I think you need at least 3 people or more. So there's a little bit more chaos going on with the trucks. So more people are competing for trucks and whatnot. And 2 player, it's very easy to kind of go your separate way and never really step on each other's toes. So it kind of takes a little bit out of the game. So that's why Truck Off is going away. I got it because I thought it would be a fun game. We've played it a handful of times. Just in 2 player, it does not shine. It just doesn't have enough chaos for what's going on. It is a very simple game, very light. It says 30 minutes. That's probably about right. But yeah, Truck Off. Not a whole lot to say about this one. Oh, I had it upside down the whole time. Not a whole lot to say. It does come with cool little, truck mini, like cardboard things that look pretty cool. And they're all like themed, like like a big taco on the top, or they have like a rice box. So yeah, that is Truck Off, the Food Truck Frenzy game. Next up, we have Guardians Chronicles Episode 1. Dr. Scaroff Threatens All. So this was a Kickstarter game, but I believe Yellow bought them towards the end, or bought the IP. And what this game is it is a 1 versus all, where one player is playing the villain. In this case, it is Dr. Scaroff. And the other players are playing one of 4 heroes, Sergeant Freedom, Supernova, Golden Boy, and Adam Spell. What you are doing in this game, you basically set up a scenario with these modular tiles that have different rooms on them. Dr. Scaroff hides out in the control room, and on his turn, he can bounce around between different consoles that allow him to activate traps, activate minions, shoot guns. And what the heroes are doing is kind of like a dungeon crawl. They are trying to get through the base and get to Dr. Scaroff and beat him. The twist to the game is that you don't necessarily win just by beating Dr. Scaroff. Throughout the game, different rooms are going to have little mini missions that the heroes need to complete. Like one of the rooms is Dr. Scaroff is going to launch nukes. And the heroes need to get to that room by a specific time and stop the nukes from going off. They can fail. That doesn't end the mission because they can just keep going through, or they can completely ignore that altogether. But what happens is a newspaper is being generated based on all those little missions. And what you're trying to do is come up with a positive spin on the newspaper so that your heroes look like heroes and not like they're just going in there to punch a bad guy in the face. So if you ignore all those little mini puzzles and missions, they're going to have bad effects on the outside world, and you're going to get a negative press headline. And at the end of the game, even if you beat Dr. Scaroff and you defeat him, and they'll say Dr. Scaroff defeated, that'll be the main headline. The rest of the headlines will be heroes failed to stop nukes. Heroes failed to stop robot uprising. And you can still lose the game in public opinion from the, even though you beat the bad guy. So the bad guy can still win. It's a novel concept. There is only this one episode. I think you can, put different constructions on the board to get different layouts and whatnot. It comes with a lot of minis. You have a couple sub bosses. You have lots of these little robot minis that you play with. This is an early Kickstarter game. This is before the Cool Mini or Nots of the world and, the Stonemaier games and the more recent, better minis. I don't know if the minis that are in this box are the upgraded ones or not. I know that the initial Kickstarter, based when I bought this, I didn't get it from Kickstarter. I got it on a store shelf. But I believe that there was some issue with the minis in the Kickstarter, and certain people, maybe if you were on the Kickstarter and backed it, you got upgraded minis, and then maybe certain copies after a certain point had the upgraded minis. The minis in here are not that great. They're very soft plastic. They are very, very small. They don't have a lot of detail to them. Some of them, like the girl, what's her name? Supernova, has a very bad pose where she has very minimal contact with her base. So she was constantly being flattened out. So I actually have her in a special little, almost like a film, an old school 35 millimeter film thing so that she can stay standing up and doesn't get squished. Because every time I'd bring her out of the box, she would just be squished over and wouldn't stand. And a lot of the minis in here have that problem. The robots are the same way. It was a cool game. It has a lot of dice rolling where you're trying to roll for checks. So if you played like Descent, it plays very similar to that. I liked the theme on it. I think they come up with a bunch of other episodes after this, and I think they may have even made it a straight co-op that has an AI to run the bad guy. And that's, again, kind of where this one falls apart for me, is because this was something I got that I thought it'd be cool to play with my son, whatever, and his friends. But then it comes down to it's a 1 versus all. And if you only have 2 players, it's kind of boring to play 1 versus all, 1v1, where one player is trying to struggle with a couple different heroes in order to play. But yeah, I got a few plays out of it. I enjoyed it. I played it with a few different groups. We had a good time. But ultimately, it has not gotten played in years. So I'm going to pass it on, and maybe somebody else will like it. Maybe somebody else has the other episodes and wanted part 1 and just never could track it down. Next up, Proving Grounds. This is from Renegade Games. It is one of their solo hero series games. So it is a strictly 1-player game. It's got a full story involved. Like, there's a storybook in there that you can read through. It doesn't really do anything to the game. But essentially what you're doing in this game, you have been accused and framed of a crime. And basically you are thrown into the middle of the Coliseum as a gladiator, and it is you against all. And all these different characters are attacking you. These different gladiators are trying to kill you. In the base game. And what this is it is a speed rolling dice game with some caveats. You roll dice. You can keep... you cannot re-roll dice that you have singles of. So if you roll 6 dice and you get some pairs and some and you have 1 left over by itself, those are locked. You have to keep those. And if you want to re-roll dice, you need to re-roll the ones that you have 2 or 3 or 4 of a kind of. So you're trying to get another pair or whatever. Usually in this game, single dice are bad. Now, there's different colored dice in the game, and what you're trying to do is each bad guy has a specific color and number of dice that he needs to hit. The dice do have values on them, so it'll be like you need 3 blue, 2 white, and a red. So you can do that with 2 blue dice that have a 1 and a 2. You can do it, however you make that combination. And single dice, usually whenever you have to place a single die, so the numbers that are there. Actually, I'm sorry, the numbers on there pertain to the place that you can put them. So each one is numbered 1 through 6 around in a circle. So if you roll a blue 3, the blue 3 goes onto the 3 space at the end. So you don't really get to choose. You're trying to roll to get the numbers you want for the guys you want to defeat. And it's better to not hit anyone. So if you only have 1 die, it's better to try and get a pair for that and just not hit that particular character, because rolling 1 dice or placing 1 die on the bad guy is always a bad time. There's never anything that comes good out of hitting 1 time. That's basically like you took a swing at them, they parried and hit you back. It's better that you don't even attack them than a swing and a miss. The cool thing about the game is that it does have how many different modes in here? 6 expansion modules in the game. So the expansions add things like chariots, dragons, other modes of play that are going to come into play and add in extra dice or extra cards. This game did have, right out of the box, it had impossible level 1 cards that you put into the first scenario that were almost impossible to beat. So if you wrote to Renegade and said, hey, I got this game and it has the old cards, they would send you a pack of new cards that have the updated requirements so that you can actually get through the game a little bit easier. That being said, I played a couple of the expansions. It's pretty fun, but in a solo game, the speed rolling and trying to, because you have to do it within a certain amount of time. You have like an app that you download that counts down whatever. So you have a couple minutes, I think, to roll the dice, or maybe a minute, and you can stop at any point. Like if you get the dice you want, you don't have to keep rolling. You can stop and place your dice. But whenever I'm playing a solo game, I'm not really looking to play a speed rolling game. If I'm playing a solo game, I kind of want to sit down and take my time and enjoy it. And unfortunately, this one, you're just rolling as fast as you can, and it's just nonstop hectic. And the concept is really cool. I wish there was a non-timed version that, maybe gave you a certain amount of rolls instead of trying to, Yahtzee style, rather than try to roll as fast as you can. But overall, it doesn't work because I don't like that style of play. I don't want to speed roll to try and get it. So it's a lot of dice rolling. If you like dice rolling and you like being timed, this is probably right up your alley. It is very difficult. I only won it a handful of times. But it is quick to set up and play. So even if you lose, because you can lose very quickly in this game, you can immediately reset and play it again very quickly. But yeah, that is Proving Grounds by Renegade, a solo hero series. Like I said, pretty good game, just not my style for what I want in a solo game, which is not to be speed rolling. I want to sit down and take my time and enjoy what I'm doing, and I just can't do that. Next up, Codenames Duet. So, Codenames Duet, if you've played Codenames, you know how it works. You put out a grid of cards that have, depending on which version of Codenames you're playing, they either have pictures or words or both. This one just has words, and this one is completely co-op. In normal Codenames, you have 2 teams that are competing against each other, and one player is giving a one-word clue to his team that is trying to connect a certain amount of the cards on the board so that the players can guess and not guess the other player's cards or guess the bomb, the spy that immediately ends the game at a loss for that team. Codenames Duet does that similarly, except both players are on the same team, so they have the same setup of cards. All of the agents that we have are ours. There are, the red herrings in there that just they count against your score, and if you get too many of them, you lose. there is an instant loss card in there. But essentially, you're giving clues to your partner to try and get them to guess. And there's no back and forth. You can both just figure out like, okay, hey, I got it. I got a clue. I want to give you a clue. Here's your clue. And then they can take the time to guess. And then they can be like, hey, I got a clue. Or you can just go, hey, I got another clue while they were doing that. The game does come with a kind of a mission log where it sets up you need to get a certain amount of clues. You have a certain amount of time to get it, like a certain amount of guesses, a certain amount of rounds. And using one of those rounds costs you a clue token. And then you bounce around and you're trying to complete the little map, going from place to place and looking in the book for what that mission entails. I got it because me and my wife like to play a lot of 2-player games now. This was just one that we played it a couple times and she just really wasn't into, which not that surprising because I had original Codenames and that didn't really go over too well with. I played it a couple times with family and they just kind of meh. I still have Codenames Marvel because the picture one seemed to do better than just the words, and the Marvel theme brought in more people. But again, not a big hit. But I thought maybe, the Codenames Duet, it's cooperative. Maybe this would be a good game. But it just kind of fizzled. We played it a couple times. And if you're not really in the mindset to play a thinky brain game like this, where you're trying to give these complex clues to get a bunch of stuff in a certain amount of rounds, then, if you're not in the mood for it, it's not going to really hit. So I played it a couple times, and it's going to go into the pile of trades or sell or, just to get rid of to somebody else that hopefully wants Codenames Duet. So yeah. Next up is Emergents Genesis, the deck building game. So this again was from my early days of Kickstarter. It is a superhero based deck builder similar to Shards of Infinity, where you are going to get a particular character type, a particular superhero type, and then you are going to recruit cards, deck build cards, build a deck, and try to knock out your opponent in like a sparring match. It's got really cool artwork. It's all original. There's no IP here. The cool thing, the way the game was set up was instead of just having like a row of cards, the game put out what's called the page. So it put out a grid of cards. And then along the side, it had some basic cards that you could always get. And all the cards are different themes. So there's like shadow and power and speed, and a couple other like electricity or energy or something. And your character that you get, your superhero, is going to be tuned into one of those particular types of power. So what you're trying to do is build a deck that's around those characters by recruiting, but drafting cards off the comic page. So you, just like a normal deck builder, you have like recruit cards that give you points to buy stuff, and then you have attack cards where you can use to attack your opponent. It's a fun game. Again, it's kind of in the same vein as Shards of Infinity. It's a 2-player head-to-head, or 4-player you can play up to. I played it a couple times. I like the artwork. I think it's really cool. It's kind of like the golden era or maybe silver era type artwork. It's not like comic books up today. Like I said, it mainly looks more like art from like the 70s and early 80s. Maybe a little bit older, but you get the idea. Silver Age type stuff. It's a fun game. It's just, again, it's not really my style of game. And I got it because I like comic book stuff, and this was a cool concept. I really dug the art. And it was made by some Magic players. I remember watching their videos, but they were former Magic Pro players, and they got together and they made this game. And it was pretty cool. It's not my style of game. So I played it a few times, passing it on to somebody who likes deck builders. That's another thing. I really like deck builders. I have so many deck builders. Usually deck builders I like, or at least like to try, and I like games that do different things. This was early on in my deck building career. So my deck building collection phase. And it was something I didn't have. It was comic books. It was deck builders. It had really cool art. So I backed it. I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. but it hasn't hit the table in years. So it's going on. It's going out of my collection, and maybe somebody else will collect it and play it. And I think last up, is this behemoth. I got this one not too long ago. This is U-Boot, the board game. So if you remember this from Kickstarter from a few years back, this is a World War II era German submarine U-Boot, basically a simulator. It comes with a punchboard, like 3-dimensional submarine that you put your little minis, your characters inside of and on top of. It's got little guns that mount to it. And then the real catch to this game is that it has an app that you actually need in order to play the game. So you're going to be assigned missions in the app, and the missions are going to give you multiple things that you need to do. So like in the starter mission, it'll be like, hey, this is to learn the game. You can go over here to this quadrant, to these coordinates, and try to find some ships to sink. There will be no resistance there. If you want, you can go over here, and there'll be some warships there that you can take a shot at. You can go over here, and there'll be some planes, and they throw all these different scenarios at you. And the main game, you can play individual missions, or you can play it as a campaign where stuff that you do from game to game carries over to the next game. There's 4 different roles in the game. There's the captain, the engineer, the first officer, and the navigator. And each one of those roles is vastly different, and they all have their own components and play style that you need to learn in order to play. So this game takes a lot of dedication and learning and time to understand how everything works and how you need to do it. So the captain issues orders, keeps track of crew morale, plays cards to boost morale, and gives orders and has to be the final say on what they want to do. The navigator is going to plot courses, track where enemy ships are, and try to line those up with the targeting disc, which is lots of math and geometry. And he's going to get them from point A to point B to point C to point D. The first officer is going to control the app, which has, you have to complete maintenance tasks and fire missiles or torpedoes, shoot guns, and steer the ship and handle like the Enigma machine where you get different orders. And then the engineer is going to be in charge of repairing stuff. If the ship takes damage, there's a little mini game they have to do in order to repair the damage. And there's some other like minor roles that they have to do on top of that. I played it myself just to learn how to play it. Once or twice I went through just to learn how the game works. I played it with my group. There's some caveats to the app that are a little wonky at first. And that kind of took us out of the immersion of it. And we were just trying to figure out how to make the app work, because apparently you can't bring up the targeting computer while you're in rain, and we didn't know that, and I couldn't find it. I had to eventually find it on Board Game Geek, but that kind of took us out of the game, and it took a long time just trying to figure out why we couldn't shoot the boat, even though we could see the boat. So this is one I'm just going to pass on because it takes a lot of dedication. It takes a dedicated group to learn each role and play it in order to have any real fun with it. I really liked it. I really dig everything it's doing. It's just I really like it. I dig everything it's doing. It just takes a dedicated group base to play it multiple times to figure it all out. And I don't think it's kind of like a Gloomhaven or a Pandemic season, legacy. You need a group that's dedicated to do it. And I just don't have that to be able to do this constantly. They just weren't that into it. So I'm going to pass it on. Hopefully someone will dig it. That is U-Boot, the board game. And that is going to do it for this round of my board game cleansing. I don't have anything else that I need to get rid of or have any shelf space for. So that's it. Those are all the games. So as always, like, share, subscribe. Check the description for Discord link. And come chat with us on Discord. Let us know Have you played any of these games? Is there anything that you think I shouldn't be getting rid of? Maybe by the time this video comes out, I'll still have it and you'll sway me to not get rid of it. Thanks for watching.